Kimia, welcome to the AI Powered Career Edge podcast. I'm so excited to have you on today. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm very excited to be here. Grateful to have been invited and excited to chat more.
So, I'm very grateful because we have not had a bona fide social media influencer on the show before. And I was looking more closely at your Insta earlier on today. And geez, I don't think I've ever met somebody with 80,000 followers. That's amazing.
Thank you.
You're really good at what you do, obviously. So, what I would love to do is talk about your career journey and your evolution. You've made a bunch of pivots from content creator to brand strategist, social media strategist, to now incorporating AI in your work. So it's really exciting and I can't wait to hear about it.
Absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
All right, now let's get into it. So, Kimia, tell us about the start of your journey with content creation.
I start with content creation. Wow, where to begin? I started about 10, 11 years ago. I was writing for a food and travel outlet called The Daily Meal. And at the time, I was working full time at Oracle. It was my first job out of college. As a writer, as a journalist there, I was getting invited to all these restaurants and hotels and travel destinations to essentially write articles about them. As I was writing articles, I was getting invited to all these amazing, luxurious, incredible places. Ever since college, I was obsessed with social media. I would document everything I was doing, the places I'd go with my friends, the things I was eating. So that joy trickled into my journalism journey where as I was going to all these places, I documented everything I was doing, all the places I was going. So as I was doing it very consistently, this is back when Snapchat was also relevant. So I was posting on Snapchat, Instagram, all the channels. And I remember one day a friend from high school named Ellie reached out to me and messaged me and she said, "Hey, Kimia, have you ever thought about starting a food blog? You go to all these amazing places." That's when the light bulb ticked where I decided to essentially at that time, this was like what, 2015, I had a little under 3,000 followers. So I had built a community and I was thinking, oh, I could start a food blog. I still have the notes in my iCloud where I was brainstorming silly names like The Hungry Heart, Feels for Meals. I love wordplay. And then my cousin Farisa actually suggested Kimia's Cravings with a K because she was like, Kimia, you love alliteration. You like cravings can go beyond just food. It can go into adventure and lifestyle and all that. I was like, oh my God, what a great idea. So given that I already had a community, I was debating on starting a whole new channel or building from what I had. And I decided to build from what I had. So that is where it all began. I was going to restaurants, hotels, all these, I was traveling a lot. So I did it so consistently that I started in San Francisco. And then for my next tech job, I was in New York. And that was where everything really blew up because it was the mecca of that, even though it was also new. But this is back when the term was called blogger. I had a blog, I had
Hmm.
Instagram and everything. So I was networking, I was going to all these brand events, I was meeting other creators, or other bloggers at the time, should I say. So I did not know what I was doing, quite frankly. I didn't know how to monetize. I was just, it was a lot of perks initially, but I eventually learned how to monetize it. And here we are.
That's amazing. From 3,000 at the outset to about 80,000 now. That's a lot of progress. I'm sure lots of learnings, and sometimes two steps forward, one step back. That's the career arc, right? For a lot of us, especially a lot of us who are trying to do things that haven't been done before. So that's terrific. And so you created a brand kind of yourself with Kimia's Cravings. And then you went from there to helping companies create their brands online, especially in terms of their social media presence. How did that happen?
Yeah, great question. So during my content journey, I alluded to the fact that I always had a full-time tech job. I was going to say on the side, but that was my full-time job. The content creation was on the side. My full-time job at the time, I treated like a side hustle, to be totally honest. But hence, once I entered my third tech job, I remember I told myself, okay, Kimia, enough is enough. You know yourself, you're a creative spirit, and this is not me. I essentially, and of course, typically going from sales to marketing, or especially a creative role, is not an easy pivot. So how I did it was basically I leveraged what my content creator journey intertwined with my love for people and networking and landed my first full-time marketing role, which was at Hint Water. And the founder and CEO at the time liked how I had built my own personal presence. So she had me manage her channels as well. And that's how that all started. And after that, joined a femtech startup and then another company. And then I went fully freelance, consulting companies independently on their social media strategy, influencer strategy, everything, the brand, community, copy, events, the A through Z of all things creative is the is my wheelhouse.
Wow. So talk about a calling card. You just popped open your phone and Kimia's cravings. This is what I can do. And that probably got you into the door in a lot of places with your clients for jobs as a marketer.
Absolutely. It definitely has been very, very helpful to leverage that as my own, as my working portfolio.
Yeah. So when you work with clients and even when you were in full-time marketing roles, where do you start? I suppose a company has a really, really sparse social media presence. They're like, oh, we could do so much more in building our brand. What kind of questions do you ask? Where do you even start with something like that?
Oh, the first thing I have always done from the start of my career up until now, auditing whether you're a brand new brand or you're a bigger corporation or you have no presence and you want to start. Typically, I like to start with an audit. Well, typically, an audit is if you have some kind of presence, even if it is sparse. So I'll do an audit and I will essentially conduct a SWOT analysis, which is basically identifying the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and the threats. And then for those folks or those brands that are coming from a blank slate, I essentially do research in terms of getting to know more about them, if they're the face of the brand, or if it's a product, whatever it is, just to really get into the nitty gritty of who they are, and then more importantly, who they're speaking to really understand what the messaging will be and what their brand will and can look like across social, and going beyond that with creators and influencer marketing and driving and cultivating community and beyond.
I'm sure you've come across your share of CEOs and head of marketing people who say, all right, we've hired you to do the social media stuff. How come it's not generating sales? Or how do I know that my social media is generating sales and revenue? So, how do you have that conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it starts as a brand awareness tool. Some people might agree, some people might disagree, but I don't think it's the best sales driver. It's definitely a part of the funnel, and I think it's a quintessential part of that flow or decision making process. When we're talking about the funnel, it's more so, it falls under the top of the funnel where it's more so within people deciding and considering because your brand on social, of course, there's social capital there. It's where your friends, families, colleagues, and people are living online. It's not necessarily the best sales driver, but rather more of a brand awareness channel in that sense. So then when it comes to talking to brands or educating them on this, a lot of people, their main focus is, oh, I want to go viral. Like, oh, I want to like drive, I don't know, 1,000
That's right.
sales tomorrow. I think there's some common things that not only I've heard, I'm sure a lot of other people who are in my shoes have heard. And I'm like, that's not how it works.
Yeah,
It's really a brand building process. It's that you put the puzzle pieces together. For example, you can't put the roof when there's no base.
that's right.
So
That's right.
that's how I think of it. So basically, I educate them on the fact that we need to understand who you are, who you're speaking to, what the story is you're trying to tell before you can sell. Because we're all getting sold to more than ever before.
Yeah,
For example, my TikTok, I'm like, I miss the old TikTok when China owned it because it was so much more fun. And now it's like, and now every other video is an ad. So I think, especially in this inundated space of everyone, there's so many beauty products, there's so many grooming products. Brand, how can you break through that clutter beyond sounding like another sales pitch or another ad?
yeah. So I loved the term you use, social capital, because you translated your social capital from an influencer, your social media presence, to roles, internal roles in marketing. You went from sales and tech to marketing, and then you translated that into clients. And so you actually translated your social capital into something tangible multiple times. And that's a prime example of how to use social media to influence and to build that capital and then to really use that as leverage to go where you want to go. And that's really the whole idea. And you did a lot of, I heard you did a lot of networking in there, and that's also building social capital. So when I work with people around their career strategy, your network as social capital, that concept is key because people don't use their network as social capital. Most people just network or help others or ask for help only when they need a job or they're looking for something for their work. So social capital and influence and just constantly cultivating that makes a lot of sense to me from a career strategy perspective as well. So Kimia, next step for you or your next destination. When we talked before the podcast, you were talking about AI, how to incorporate AI, how you're leveraging AI. I know everyone's kind of tinkering with it. There's a little bit of trial and error. So what have you tinkered with and what have your learnings been?
Oh, yes. First and foremost, I'm going to start with how I started using AI in my work. I was essentially drowning in my own content. For example, I had done a shoot, or I did a restaurant visit or a hotel stay, and then God knows how many photos, just like 500 from one day, a script half written, and I would essentially sit there feeling so overwhelmed, not knowing where to begin, and editing paralysis and the making paralysis in terms of like, okay, should I edit the content first? Should I script first? Like, what should I do? And sometimes it would cost me weeks because I would be in this mental state of where do I go next? Uh, so the first thing I ever used AI wasn't for writing, but rather for deciding, picking the cover photo, picking the order, or tell me which of these three hooks is the strongest. I am the queen of puns. Speaking puns, I joke and call it punish, is my primary language before English because that's just how my brain functions. For example, let's say there's a carousel that I did, and I will come up with like three or five different caption ideas for it, and then I'll feel torn even which one to pick because I think that they're all so good. And then sometimes I'll even ask Claude, okay, which one should I use? And then provide a snippet of what some of those images or the content looks like. So I stopped treating it like a writer and really started treating it like a second option that's always available, and everything opened up. I found it to drive even more creativity.
That's awesome. Using it for decision making. Okay, I still do paper, but Harvard Business Review I got this in the mail today. Smart firms are using AI to streamline decision making, just like you said. So
Oh my God.
you're way ahead of the curve here. That's
Oh,
amazing. So
can you hold
that's
on again? Can I see it?
yeah,
That is so cool.
yeah. So if you get the digital subscription, you can have it as well, and I can send you a photo of it. So that is it. The human in the loop is really about around decision making. And so a lot of people say, well, I can use AI for my career strategy, for career coaching. So it won't necessarily help you do all identify your blind spots. And but what it will do is help you make decisions. So everything before the decision point is really still you need to do the thinking and you need to really know what your content is. You need to know the variables in the equation for the decision. So all that you need to do. But AI will can definitely be a support in terms of making decisions. So and making decisions with data. So that's what AI's primary use is as of now. So, Kimia, you mentioned something about workflows as well, using AI for workflows.
Yes. I can essentially provide you a high level of my stacks. I build almost everything Claude native, for example, with agents and MCPs rather than no code connectors. So, for example, there's a creator operating system that can help run my own content. So, whether it's theme days, a biweekly batch cycle, a pun bank that I pump it with, scripts for reels, for voiceovers. And then there's an outreach engine that essentially researches 60 or so brands a day and drafts a personalized partnership pitch to each one. And then, whereas before I had an EA doing it on my behalf.
Mm,
And then there's also an email agent monitoring two inboxes on an hourly basis that drafts the replies and never sends because I still approve those, but I'm also building agents for LinkedIn, X, and Substack. And the unifying rule is that anything with a relationship or a dollar figure attached comes back to me.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Kimia, as we come to an end of our episode here, there's so much that people are going to get out of this conversation and your background and your career trajectory. Any words of advice for people who are in wait and see mode with AI? They're thinking, hey, when it gets to be more entrenched and when someone tells me to use it, then I'll use it. Until then, let me just wait and see. Any advice you have for people in that situation?
Oh, absolutely. I'll go for it. I mean, I'll be honest, I was someone who was initially either felt overwhelmed, scared, or hesitant. But once you dive in, of course, you'll make errors along the way, but it's so powerful. It's not going anywhere. If anything, it's only going to get bigger. I'm very pro AI. I don't think it's going to replace creators or the social aspect of it. It's going to keep making our lives and jobs better. Again, of course, I know there's controversy to that, but everything is also nuanced. It's not all black and white, of course, but I would say it's a matter of going for it. And hey, you can help it make that decision for you too. So
Yeah, people are going to say, Kimia comes from a tech background. It's easy for her to jump in.
not at all. If anything, even though I do have a tech background, even then I come from a sales background. I'm not a product manager or a product marketer, but rather someone whose favorite medium is words. So I would say even building an agent, it comes down to being specific and granular with what you want. So it's essentially like training a dog. You got to keep feeding it information, whether it's context about yourself or what you're trying to build, so it can provide you with the best output. So it's basically learning how to work. How can I get it? Because also at the same time, AI can provide you with all the output, but it can't provide taste. And that's on us to give it those characteristics and those nuances and those caveats so it can provide you with the best output. So yeah, you definitely don't need to be tech savvy. All you need is honestly your voice or the ability to type, and you're golden.
That's a great way to look at it. I wish you all the best in your next destination in your lab with AI, and can't wait to hear where you're going to go next. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.